Well,
Okay.
welcome everybody to this episode of Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. I'm really thrilled to be joined by filmmaker and artist Vivek Agnihotri. Vivek ji, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, it should have been done earlier, but I'm so glad that finally we are. I've never spoken to a doctor about ideas and life and politics and religion, all kinds of things. I've spoken to doctors only about medicine. So it's going to be great learning for me also. Doctor and filmmaker is a good combination.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, we like to, as we like to say in the doctor's office, is unless you really need it, hopefully we don't see you very often. One thing I wanted to share, which I was thinking about this whole weekend was, what a fabulous weekend for world cricket it was.
Yeah.
And, one of the reasons that I'm sure everybody was on the edge of their seat was the final and an Indian victory. And, nothing seemingly nothing rallies India and Bharat like a cricket victory. And I can't say I'm a native fan, but at least a peripheral fan. I was thinking about your work in the same way. And, being so inspirational, being so rallying, is it equally an aspirational parallel for you to harness that, filmmaking magic and storytelling magic to rally and inspire and motivate in the same way maybe that the Indian cricket team does?
Oh, yeah. See, just to put it very simply, what I've understood, first of all, I must congratulate you for such a wonderful name you have kept for this. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. Okay, I like three words in this: trust, know, and doing. And what
Mm,
also. I most of my philosophical things are centered around it. But anyway, we'll come to that later.
sure.
But yeah, yeah. See, there are two kinds of professions in this world.
Yeah.
One which are like every day you have to dig your own well and take out water. And one is you have got a big pond of water or lake of water, and you can keep drinking from that. Unless you
Yeah.
really destroy it. So, sports and cinema, these anything which is perform, you have to perform in front of people, public. You know
Yeah.
en masse. I mean, huge number of people. These
Yeah.
are people think it's all glamour and it's so wow, but it's very challenging also. It's very tough, very
Sure.
challenging, and trust me, it's more full of tears than laughters.
Mm,
So it's a tough life.
yeah.
Um, because things are moving so fast, changing. Similarly, in the cricket, just
Yeah.
few days ago, all these boys were being trolled so badly by everyone.
Yeah.
Everybody was abusing them. Like Kohli, for example, everybody was saying all kinds of things. But I had great faith. I knew that last day he will perform. That is
Mm,
the true sign of a hero.
yeah.
Heroes stand up when the time demands it. So that way I think they played very well. And congratulations to all the boys. Yeah.
That doesn't come, that kind of thick skin, if you will, doesn't come by accident. And, you get trolling and you get naysayers all the time, and yet you still have to have that faith in yourself and trust in the process and trust in your abilities. And that doesn't come without practice. So in a way, even in your line, right, when there's a lot of hard work, a lot of practice, a lot of tears, as you said, that comes in, over the years, do you have to in some way build kind of that thicker layer of skin in order to tolerate that? Or is there a matter of, just fueling or flushing out that noise from the signal?
You're a doctor. I'm sure you know about heart and mind both. I mean, definitely you know that. It's uh, it's impossible for a human being to
Mm,
cut himself or herself off from what people think.
yeah,
Okay, it comes with age and experience. Nobody is born like that.
yeah,
If you see, very often, whatever we do in life, you can build a $1 billion house, forget million. You can be the president of America. But ultimately, what matters is that the people you love and care for, are they appreciating it or not?
yeah,
Suppose the whole world is saying you are a hero, but your closest friends say, "Arey, no, yaar, you are not honest doing that." You
yeah,
know, like that is very difficult because you need validation at the end of it.
yeah,
Okay. Or you slowly, gradually, you understand life. And when See, not caring and valuing validation comes only when you don't have fear of losing anything.
Mm,
You know,
true.
it's a more spiritual state, like in people who understand Hindu philosophy. Okay,
Yeah,
this is where you realize everything is one, everything is Maya, and ultimately you are just manifesting. So validation is also part of that, criticism is also part of that, and you
right.
become, and also with practice, with habit, you know.
Yeah.
So
And I was thinking about that in the way that you meant that there's sort of there is an honesty about how you have to go about your own business, your professional experiences, your life experiences. They build this kind of structure of consciousness, and that hopefully at least resonates with you as you age. But the word honesty is one that I have been in a way linking to some of the work that you've been doing as well. I've been catching some of the snippets from Brutally Honest, and even from the outside view, right? Like you said, there's a peripheral view of these things, and what really happens when you're trying to share some of your thoughts. And it sometimes seems that sharing your views as a truth seeker versus sharing as a storyteller can sometimes feel like they're mutually exclusive. And therefore, brutal honesty may not always be rallying and feel inspiring. Do you think that people they when they hear brutal honesty, does it catch people by surprise? Does it sometimes catch you by surprise when people are brutally honest, when you're brutally honest?
you see, honesty cannot be half brutal. Okay,
Mm,
why I use the word brutal? Because the problem is that we see integrity and honesty. Okay, these are the things, it's a matter of habit.
yeah,
Okay, a lot of people, I always say, a lot of people talk about truth. The whole world talks about truth. In fact, one of my films, in the Tashkent File, there was a dialogue. Mithun Chakravarti says, I have to say it in Hindi because the dialogue was in Hindi. He
yeah,
says, दुनिया सच नहीं, सच की कहानियां सुनना चाहती है.
mm,
You know, so I always say that everybody talks about truth. I'm seeking truth. But if truth really comes and stands in front of you, you will not like it. Because
right.
truth is, truth breaks all the illusions. Truth
And sometimes we're
breaks,
not prepared for it.
yeah, yeah, and truth basically, truth breaks everything around you. See, the
Mm,
only way to live in this world happily, okay, despite all the suffering and all kinds of pains and despairs and agonies and the problems, the only way to live is little bit of romanticization with the lies. You know,
mm,
I won't say lies, but kind of nice, beautiful stories, you know.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like for example, I remember one of my friends became an alcoholic when we were like young in university days. He was an
sure.
alcoholic, but his mother would always say, no, 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 he's a wonderful boy, you know. It's just because of his
Yeah.
friends he has developed bad habits.
Mm,
And that time I said, what kind of mother she is? Can't she see truth? But now I understand that if she doesn't create this nice, comforting lie around her, how will she live in that relationship, you know?
yeah,
And for a
yeah,
mother to believe that her son is like total of waste is not the right thing. So we need that. But when the
yeah,
truth comes and stands in front of you, okay, that destroys everything you have believed in all your life. And
sure.
therefore, truth is not what we think is true. Truth is all, we are truth. See,
Yeah,
what is truth? We say universe is truth. Like you, for example, you are a doctor. Let me explain
yeah,
it in a simple technical medical terms. Okay.
sure.
Now, what we understand is that the mind, what mind thinks is truth in a body. I
Mm,
always give this example. I always say, okay, if I ask a small cell in your kidney, that why are you working all the times? Why are you
mm,
doing what you do? Then cell is going to say, I don't know. The
yeah,
kidney, my boss, kidney has asked me to do it. You go and ask
right,
kidney, why are you doing all this? All the times filtering and cleaning everything. You say, I don't know. My boss has asked me to do that. So you go
right.
to your boss, your mind, and you say, why are you doing it? Also body. And body says, I don't know. The mind is asking me to do that.
Yeah,
Then you ask mind. Mind says, I don't know. I'm part of a consciousness, and that's why it has to be done. You know?
absolutely.
So now what humans do is we always divide things. We learn to, we are basically divisive by genes, you know, by
Yeah,
DNA. So we say mind and body. We say universe and man, correct? But the cell is as much true as the mind or the consciousness,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So to say that I'm seeking truth, I'll find truth. Now, I've recently started understanding this about 5, 6 months ago. I have now, earlier I knew intellectually, but now I know actually that I am as true as you are.
Yeah.
Everything is as true as we are the universe. We are the space. Where is the space? It's inside me. The
Mm.
water is inside me. I am as much water as the composition of the world. So
Right. Right.
therefore, the kind of truth you think you want to seek, don't seek that truth. This will destroy you. It's better
Mm.
to try to be true to yourself, to the concept of you being part of the Sanatan truth of the world. I think
Yeah.
that truth is what fascinates and interests me more than this conceptual and intellectual truth, abstract kind of a truth.
Almost the connectivity of everything. First off, by the way, that's a great analogy. Thinking about, I didn't think that we would ever have a conceptual conversation about the kidney in that way, but yes, that's absolutely true. But
Very
it's true, right? I mean, there's so many. We love to silo things. We love to compartmentalize things, and yet it's a much more, I would say, in a way, mature and evolved way of thinking, to think of how connected everything is in our consciousness. If we think about that idea of seeking truth all the time, then you can also, in a way, it's an relatively isolating place sometimes too. And you wrote recently that the path of truth is a lonely journey, and that you'll always have a tough fight when you're expressing yourself and not impressing people. And so I'm curious, in your work, when you're thinking like that, how do you then personally combat the isolation and the loneliness of that? Because that's not an easy place to be when you're thinking about how you can seek that, and yet it's so lonely.
Yeah, and I have a very typical problem. I have to give you this kind of a preface before I answer your question.
Yeah.
See, I have a practical, a technical problem. The problem is that I made a film called The Kashmir Files.
Yeah.
Okay, now whatever I say and I do, okay, people try to look at everything from that point of view, because
Mm.
it's not their fault also. They discovered me. A lot of people globally, see, in India, a lot of people knew I've been in the
Right.
film industry for a long time. I've been a public speaker, but globally people got me associated with one thing. Now, because that Kashmir Files has a kind of a religious undercurrent in the film. Okay,
Mm.
now very often people try to look at your entire life from one perspective, so we fail to discover other aspects of a person,
Yeah.
and that's where the loneliness comes from. Okay,
Yeah.
for example, let's take some big celebrity, say for example Amitabh Bachchan.
Yeah.
Okay, now all your life you see Amitabh Bachchan as angry young man.
Mm.
So when we go and meet him, we expect him to give some very angry
Yeah.
dialogues, but if he comes as a person of his age, nice, simple, somebody doing puja, playing with
Right.
grandchildren, you say, no, he's not the star I liked.
Mm.
That's the problem
Yeah.
with images.
Right.
But as far as I'm concerned, I it's I am more alone than lonely. Maybe I wrote that word because people don't understand the difference. I'm more
Yeah.
alone than lonely, and it's a choice I made. Because the
Yeah.
kind of stuff I am doing, now my next film also I'm doing, the Delhi Files, is if Kashmir Files disturbed you, this film is going to destroy people. It's such a
Mm.
tough journey of India. Bharat, as you know, such a painful journey. I
Yeah.
think no other society in the history of humanity has gone through what we have gone through. And yet,
Yeah.
we also don't care. The world also doesn't care. So now, if I want to tell that story, people will say it's like a young child. Suddenly, he finds that his father has committed suicide because he were under financial burden.
Yeah.
He says, "No way." Till last night, he was saying, "Go to holiday here." He was buying me things. He was so happy. It's like that.
It's
So
a
when you
disbelief.
Yeah, disbelief. So when I was
Yeah.
researching, it's such a disbelief.
Yeah.
Now, if I open that conversation in public, nobody cares, people don't understand, or people make it political.
Mm.
I want to make this film with a lot of honesty. Second thing
Yeah.
is, uh, the problem with the entire world is that we are trained from childhood to impress people. When guests
Mm.
come to your house, you want your child to impress them
Right.
by being dressed well, by elocution, poetry,
We clean
singing.
up our house, everything.
Yeah, we want to always, we are in this impress mode. All
Yeah.
the times we are trying to impress people. Very rarely we get chance to express ourselves. So
Yeah.
this entire philosophy as a life principle happened when I was talking to Kashmiri Pandits, victims of Kashmiri genocide. Almost, you won't believe it, every single person said, nobody heard us. We never got a chance to express ourselves. And I
Mm.
realized it's such a mad world where we don't get to express. And that's when I started saying what I feel like. I said I don't want to die with unexpressed emotions and thoughts. But it doesn't mean that I'll express and hurt somebody. I'm not in a
Right.
conflict mode with the world. So that's why I wrote that it's a very, the path to truth is a very, very lonely journey, because in
Yeah.
this journey you can't have friends, you can't have family, no brother, no sister, no wife, nothing. This you have to seek alone. And if you are willing to do that, then you cannot be in impressing mode, you have to be in expression mode all the times.
And sometimes those dialogues are, they're quite painful, they're very abrupt, they can be a lot more clunky, but and they're not clean, and it doesn't matter whether we're impressing someone or not. If we don't have that expression, then there's no outlet for that pain, and there's no outlet for that disbelief. And so no matter what your interpretation of it is, there must be some dialogue, as we talked about earlier, that that's the only place where you can have, those people who have been left behind, especially, there might be some balm for that. um, in the same way, does each one of your films, when you are in that mode of saying, wow, I can't believe what I'm learning about and I need to tell this story, does each one of your films, whether starting out with Chocolate and Tashkent Files and Kashmir Files and now Delhi Files and of course Vaccine Wars, um, do they serve as additive blocks on this journey? Do they each build upon each other, or each time you get to a new place where you want to share a story, is there actually some unlearning to do when you start each endeavor, that you have to almost erase the slate and in a way start from scratch?
Of course, of course, of course, yes. I mean, in this series of expression films, see, Chocolate and Goal were more impressing the audience with songs, drama, glamour, regular
Right.
stories, predictable stories. I'm not against impressing people. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely not against. I love people who impress me. But what I'm saying is, but then I started a journey. It was my personal choice. I said, I
Yeah.
don't want to tell stories which people want to hear. I want to tell stories which I want to tell. The first film in that journey was Buddha in a traffic jam.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a Hindu, as a student, as a son of a professor, all my life I grew up believing that teachers can never ever be wrong. Teachers cannot be even point worse than 1% wrong. Maybe it was
Right.
my generation when I grew up with those kind of teachers.
Yeah.
But I think that thought was coming more from Guru Shishya kind of a concept.
Yeah.
Okay. But then as I discovered that in my university where I went, JNU and whole lot of other places, the students I met, and I said that these are the professors
Mm.
who are basically brainwashing these young kids to pick up arms and go and become Naxals. And in return, these kids are getting killed. And nobody comes to even shed one tear, not even those professors. So we made Buddha in a traffic jam. So it was so much of value unlearning for me.
Yeah.
And same happened with the Tashkent Files. You
Mm.
know, with Tashkent Files, I realized that in Indian democracy, the right to truth is totally absent. And which is
Mm.
why any kind of incidents, big events, and these kind of controversial deaths and all those things, you never get to know the truth. You
Yeah.
know, Kashmir Files, I won't say that it was so much of unlearning, but there was a lot of learning, a
Yeah.
whole lot of learning. And the biggest learning, I've never said this, but I'll tell you what, the biggest learning for me was my emotional evolution.
Mm.
I considered myself not to be very emotional person. I wouldn't get involved in things. Even my wife used to say that.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't help but discover. empathy, compassion, and not only for Kashmiri Muslims or Kashmiri Hindus or
Yeah.
Pandits or for my people. I generally developed this compassion for everything,
Yeah.
every single thing. You won't believe me. I mean, I don't share personal things, but I'll just tell you. I mean, a cockroach. Okay, we lived in a house. We live near the sea, so generally you get a lot of cockroaches in Mumbai.
Mm.
And I would get up in the morning. I would take out my slipper and talk, 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 talk. I'll kill all the cockroaches. But since the Kashmir Files, in fact, during the research of the today, I can't even kill an ant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what I do is I take a newspaper or some paper and I pick it up and I just throw it outside, outside of the house. And it is natural and I didn't realize it. One
Yeah.
day, my son told me this. He said, "Why don't you kill this?" I said, "Wait, sometime in your life you will also not want to kill them.
Right.
It's not that I do not understand that there is nothing wrong in sometimes if an ant or some cockroach is killed. Obviously, I mean
Sure.
somebody is attacking you, then you got to defend yourself. But
Right.
still, I'm not being able to do it.
Yeah.
I've started crying a lot while watching excellence. Whenever I see human excellence, I see some innocent moments. I
Mm.
talk to people and somebody is really honest and innocent and genuine.
Yeah.
I have tears in my eyes.
Right.
So that took me to another zone. Now
Yeah.
I'm doing the Delhi files. And as I'm doing the Delhi files, my faith and my confidence in Hindu philosophical system, the knowledge system,
Yeah.
has become so strong. I always had this little bent of philosophical mind, but on the greatness of Hindu philosophy, I mean,
Mm.
I can talk for months and months non-stop.
Right.
Like you can talk about multiverses and universes, and there is infinite. Our
Yeah.
knowledge, our knowledge stems from one very simple three word. Our entire philosophy is three words. The
Mm.
science, after hundreds of years of discovery and invention, has also almost reached there now. It has started recognizing that this is true, and
Yeah.
from there erupts everything else.
Mm.
You know, so I'm sorry, I don't want to bore your audience, but I'm
No.
into
No.
this.
No.
And and so my film is about actually partition and
Yeah.
till date. It says that in India the partition never ended.
Yeah.
Okay. But despite that, why aren't we divided into five, six, seven, eight countries?
Right.
Or 100
Right.
countries? It is, and why we never are angry about anything. Why aren't we angry that most of our greatest pieces of art, I don't want to say temples,
Yeah.
because it gives a different kind, but in my mind they are great. See, when you go to
Yeah.
Vatican, I go to Vatican, I never look at it,
Right.
aha, what a religious place. I say,
Yeah.
oh, wonderful painting by Michelangelo,
Yeah.
wonderful work by this person, what a statue. So wherever I go in the world, I go to Middle East, I see all this great calligraphy, beautiful tomb. So I look at it more creatively. And I
Yeah.
said some of the world's most scientific architecture,
Mm.
one of the best primitive technology, and some of the greatest expression of art and beauty is all broken, is in ruins.
Yeah.
Okay, some 30, Ramesh Tripathi was telling me some 3 million or 30,000. Please, I can check with him and confirm it to you so you can write
Sure.
a cap. Manuscripts of India are lying somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some of the greatest of our works. And we have reduced Hindu religion only Veda, 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 and Puran. No, it's beyond that. It's
Yeah.
like
There's so much to comprehend. It's
so
endless.
much.
Yeah.
So, and then we divided the country on an anti-thought, an anti-value, anti-principle, in a with something which is totally opposite to it. you
Right.
know and so I feel very sad about it, and so therefore I this film is about that. It's still continuing, nothing has changed, and if
Mm.
nothing changes, then after 50 years do we expect another partition, maybe 20 years, 10 years? you know
Right.
anyway, rest is for you to see the film.
Yeah.
But while researching that, okay, the destruction of Hindu values and Hindu
Mm.
culture and Hindu civilization, I am surprised nobody writes about it, nobody talks about it. For me, it's like losing your grandfather's wealth, or your grandmother left one something for you and you lost it.
Well, and you see these aspects of artistic expression, as you say, whether they be, in India, is it's a Bharatiya Hindu expression, whether it's the Vatican, whether it's someplace in the Middle East, it doesn't matter, right? They are cultural and artistic expressions, and you have a lot of heartstrings and attachment to
Yeah,
these
and
things.
sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
they are the documents of
right.
human evolution. Don't forget
Yeah.
that.
Right. And I think that I'm curious about this in that one of the things that I've at least admired and have taken away from your work is advocating and being fearless about the storytelling, whether that's women scientists or Kashmiri Hindus or the death of Shastriji. Sometimes I wonder if being fearless and unafraid of telling these and sharing these stories, the perception is that it actually comes at a cost of empathy, or that it demonstrates a lack of empathy, because again, somebody is feeling like they're actually on the opposite side of that. And as a at least as a storyteller and a filmmaker, is that something? And as you just shared, there's no shortage of empathy that you discover when you research these, topics, and yet that can be a tough place to be at. Where you think then about, I mean, I'm sure that comes in the editing part of it. Like, okay, well, what do I keep in? What do I keep out? Those kinds of questions.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Yeah, definitely. And see, there are two things. One is your personal side, one is the professional side, you know.
Right.
And personally, you have to lose a lot, even professionally. But if you are talented and if you know your job, then you can survive. I am one of those people. But personally, when you make these movies, okay,
Mm,
which are on sensitive subjects,
yeah.
okay, then definitely a certain section of society is going to cancel you.
Mm,
Okay, that's very in literary arts. If they don't leave Salman Rushdie, okay, or MF Hussain, then who am I? You know,
right.
um,
Right.
Rushdie, you know, he's
Yeah.
lost one eye because of that.
Yeah.
So people didn't leave Gandhi, so forget about anything else. People
Yeah.
haven't left, I mean, Socrates for that matter. I'm not saying I'm one of those, but it's a human tendency that
Yeah.
when somebody feels exposed, the first thing they do is attack the other person, you
Right.
know. And so I have gone through that a lot. I cannot move out freely in India. Okay, I have Y plus category security, so I'm always with armed gunners and Government of India's
Yeah.
CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force. Can't travel with my children, with family.
Mm,
We don't go out. I've stopped going to theaters to watch movie. This is the price you have to pay
yeah.
to get into these kind of themes, you know. But somebody had to say it. If you do
Yeah.
not say, another thing I want to say in these films. Actually, it's the politicians who get activated, not the normal people. Not the. In fact,
Mm,
in Kashmir Files, most of the people who worked on the film are hardcore Kashmiri Muslim boys and girls. You know,
yeah.
in fact, one scene of my film was written by them. I
Mm,
generally the subject I'm making film on, I generally associate with the stakeholders of that, and work with them. Even in
yeah.
Bengal Files, I'm working with all kinds of people. Okay,
Yeah.
irrespective. For in my mind, anybody who's born on this land is Bharatiya. That's it. Okay, and
Yeah.
after that we get divided into religions. Tell me one thing: when a Hindu and Muslim get married and they have a child, what is that child? Okay, you'll say if the
Right.
father is Hindu, then he's Hindu. I say father is Muslim and this thing, what will happen? If that child after some time marries a Christian, what will happen? And that
Right.
Christian child marries a Hindu again, then what will happen? So, I mean, as long, see, when I come to US,
Mm,
I land in JFK or wherever I go, instantly I land and I change.
yeah.
Okay, I say from now, next 1 month or 3 weeks, Americanism is what my values are.
Right.
Okay, I have to
Right.
behave in this manner. This is how I have to go about it. When I go to Thailand, it's different. Japan is. So I believe anybody
Yeah.
who's born on this land is that.
Yeah.
One thing I try to propagate, I try to tell people is that I was in US when I'm very proud of certain American qualities, certain
Yeah.
American values. I'm so extremely proud because these are universal human values. There are
Yeah.
some Japanese values I'm so proud of. So
Right.
sitting outside, if I can be so proud of Confucius's philosophy, I love Greece also for its, they've given Socrates and Aristotle and
Mm.
great and democracy.
Yeah.
I mean, modern form of democracy they've given.
Yeah.
I'm I love British Constitution, which
Yeah.
India has adopted. So people who are living in India, okay, why is it so difficult for some people to admire and be fascinated by these great values we have given? Why
Yeah.
fight for them? I mean,
Yeah.
it's unnecessary. But
Well,
the
and
problem
it's,
is
yeah, I
when
was just going to say it's a mechanism of hopefully pride and being unafraid. And yet, even as you describe all of these elements, whether they're nations, whether they're concepts, whether they're philosophies, in the end, you have to have that, pride and identity in order for there to be some evocation of what your national identity is. And even with that, I mean, again, I mentioned how much I admire the boldness of your work and that it speaks to being unafraid. And yet, of course, on this podcast, there's only one Abhay. So I'm curious, I'm curious in your way, professionally at least, what are some of the things that you actually might be afraid of?
right now, see, I always speak from my heart, so I won't give you very intellectual and right
Yeah,
now, um, I have a fear. Okay. And that fear is not about myself. My
yeah,
fear is about India. Okay.
mm,
I sense somewhere that India is going through a very delicate period. Either from here it can take off and actually go to unparalleled, unimagined horizons, or we can also slip away.
yeah,
Okay, and you have examples of both in the history of humans, in
yeah,
the history of this world, both things have happened. You saw day before in cricket, we were losing and suddenly we won.
right,
Okay, we could have lost from there. So it is now it totally depends not on the politicians. It totally depends on the people of this country.
mm,
Okay, how they either they surrender themselves to all these forces which are very powerful, or they say no, we will stick to our values, we'll stick to our civilization culture, and we'll
yeah,
stick to what we are made of,
mm,
or we just go along the path where somebody wants to lead us to whoever. And I'm not talking about
yeah,
any one political party, I'm saying in general. Because
sure,
in the modern, in today's world, America is also facing the same problem. Okay,
yeah,
France is also facing, all democracies are facing that the nexus of strong politicians and strong corporates. Okay, and people with vested interests have formed a nexus and they
mm,
want to drive the destiny of a country. They are trying to change this world. In
yeah,
the name of globalization, they want to uniform, they want to create uniformity and one standard for the entire world. And therefore, the world is going through a lot of cultural chaos.
sure,
People don't know what is my culture. Is samosa my culture, or McDonald's is my culture, or
yeah,
giving Chinese mithais to sweets to people on Diwali is my
yeah,
culture, or making sweets at your home is your culture. People are confused, and
yeah,
that's why I was where uh, in Europe, some country we were there, and I met these kids. They did not in Germany. They didn't have German names. They
yeah,
had names from Middle East, from here, from there, and all that. Some Japanese name. In India,
yeah,
also a lot of people have started keeping their children's name, which
right,
is Greek and Turkish or Iranian or
sure,
Japanese. This is happening because world is going through a very mixed up identity paradox,
mm,
and nobody is being able to solve.
yeah,
My worry is that is it possible that we become modern and not westernized?
yeah,
We become very, very scientifically advanced, yet not slaves of technology.
yeah,
This is my worry. We we use capitalism for enterprise and for merit and for innovations, and not use capitalism for creating more disparity and discrimination, which is
Mm,
happening in India right now. So these
yeah,
are my concerns, and that's all I fear as far as India is concerned. In personal life, I don't fear anything. Honestly, I don't fear anything.
yeah.
Nothing, absolutely nothing.
Did you, I know you have an advertising background
Yeah.
and, some study in that. And is that an iterative way when you think about these paradoxes, when you think about this, even from a standpoint of filmmaking, does that connection from advertising or even the feedback you receive on an ongoing basis for some of this, does it make it easier to synthesize the feedback and constantly learn from these episodic, aha moments, and therefore, it becomes actually a part of your ongoing journey and trajectory.
Oh, yeah. So this is very funny, I came from a small town, Bhopal,
Yeah,
and I didn't know English at all. Okay. I could write well, but I couldn't speak.
yeah,
So when I came to Delhi to study, and then when I joined advertising,
yeah,
okay, my first company where I worked, J. Walter Thompson, is number one advertising agency of the world.
yeah,
Um, so they took me because I was a very bright student and I topped. So they took
yeah.
me, gave me the job, but at a very low salary. They gave me 500 rupees a month, which is like
Mm,
almost lesser than a peon. And they said,
yeah,
okay, and because you can't speak English, so you can't deal with clients. So they put me into research, a small room which was like a research department. And my
yeah.
entire job was to read these big bundles of readership surveys, cinema survey, this survey,
Right.
research, taking the feedback, analyzing them, putting them together. Not There were no computers at that time, so
Yeah,
zero computers. I had to do everything manually. And
yeah.
but at that time, I hated that job. But two great things happened because of that. I got to know India like very few people can know. You
Mm,
tell me a city and this thing, I know exactly what is the demography of that city, what is the psychographics, what newspapers come from there, what is the politics of that
right.
place, because we had to analyze behaviors,
Everything.
psychographics, demographics of that place, every city, town, village. So that gave me so much of insight. And second
Yeah,
thing, the research became part of my life. Research
yeah,
became an attitude for me because I was doing 12, 13, 14 hours. Because
yeah.
after office hours, we would get extra money for over hours.
Over
What
time.
is it called?
Yeah.
Now I've forgotten the term. What is it called? Overtime.
You
Yeah.
get paid overtime. Yeah,
Yeah, overtime. So we
yeah.
were getting money every hour, and we were
Sure.
bachelors, young students living in a small pad. So for 500 rupees, the rent of the garage I used to live in was 600 rupees.
Yeah,
So we used to do a lot of overtime and would work from after 6 o'clock. Overtime would start, but we will work till 11
yeah,
and 11:30. In those times, we used to drink. We were young, so we would
yeah.
leave before quarter to 12, because at 12 o'clock bars would shut down. So,
Mm.
so we'll go eat and drink.
You
But
have your
then,
limits.
yeah, but that actually gave me so much of it. Research became my attitude. That's why you
Yeah.
see in my films, there are research of 3, 4 years.
Mm,
Okay, and this is not just research like going to Google and looking at the keyword this thing. I do primary research, which is on the ground. Like for
yeah.
Delhi Files, I've been interviewing these 104, 106-year-old people in Sikkim, Tripura, wherever they are alive, people who were victims of Direct Action Day in
Mm,
Kolkata in 1946, and
yeah.
Noakhali riots in 1947. So 46. So we interviewed them wherever they are, from Kerala to Kashmir to Bengal to Maharashtra. I spoke to so many people who are stakeholders in America, India, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Then we do a lot of secondary research, which is like source based, where you get information from books and stuff like that. We
Yeah.
also do tertiary research. So I do a lot of kind of research. And then what I do is then I pick up the common denominator. Something, say, these days the problem is because of Google, there's so much of fake. Anybody can write 4 articles and
Right.
it looks the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So like in earlier times, let me just explain this. This is a very interesting thing. See,
Yeah.
what happens is the people judge the authenticity by visuals, by the look of it.
Right.
Okay, so when you have a very well presented newspaper, you believe that information here is true. Okay,
Yeah.
and when you find a shabby kind of a thing, you think it's untrue. But what, so earlier you could make judgments, but
Mm,
now Google has made everything look same. And there are
yeah.
so many mastheads, you don't know what is true and what is wrong.
Right.
I think almost most of the information, 80% of information on Google is partly true. It's never fully true, including
Yeah.
medical, all this medical thing people keep talking about,
Yeah.
the health and medicine and yoga.
Yeah.
So, so what I do is I take the common denominator, something which is confirmed by the right wing as well as the left wing, something which
Yeah.
is confirmed by the historians and opinion builders, something which is in newspapers and magazines. And newspaper is not enough. Are there references of that event in some international newspapers? Are
Yeah.
those newspapers pro this thing? And that's how in Kashmir Files, I have challenged so many times. I mean, n number of times in press conferences to journalists to political parties. I said, find me one shot, one dialogue, one comma, one full stop in this, which you think is untrue. Come in front of
Right.
me. Nobody can
Yeah.
because we work on the common denominator.
Well, it's, data in a way, whether it's Google, whether it's research, data can't exist without a human relationship.
Yeah,
Because you must, and what you're describing really is creating a heat map of things, right? How do you actually take each of these points, not just from the things you read and how shiny they are, but the real people that are involved. So questioning things, constantly coming back to the data, and then sharing what you find. Whether I think we're about the same age, so my own research in this existed without the computer, and you have to have some kind of human capacity, some kind of human relationship building. And that's really where this goes. There's a quote that I think of a lot, and I think of it in this in this capacity, especially in this conversation we're having right now. The great Abdul Kalamji used to say that for great men, religion is a way of making friends, but small people make religion a fighting tool. And so
brilliant.
I'm curious, how do you reflect on this statement while also being proud of a Hindu Bharatiya civilization and being patriotic as for anyone who is in India, and especially now, as you say, as we know that India is poised to grow even further as a global stage on the global stage as a leader. How does that statement like sort of hit you? And we've talked about this a little bit already, but that sentiment is just such a beautiful way to think about what perhaps India means, especially going forward.
Um, See, India also needs to do few things, and the world also needs to do few things for
Yeah,
for this wonderful journey. First of all, what Abdul Kalam ji said uh, about religion, I look at it exactly like that. What
yeah.
what is the purpose of religion? And for me, I'm not in typical terms a religious person. I'm a spiritual person because I
Mm,
believe that from spiritual, if you take out the spirit, all you're left with is ritual.
yeah.
Okay, and ritual is like not liking somebody is still wishing happy birthday. Or
Right. It's
so
the it's
ritual.
the it's the dressing.
Yeah. See, people do not understand. Hindu religion, people have not been able to understand. Of course, you would understand, but generally the world doesn't know. And even a lot of people, the young, politically motivated Hindus also don't understand this thing. Uh, we understood that this you are at a superficial level and you are at a metaphysical level. This is the journey. So the
Yeah,
entire Hinduism is about moving from ignorance to knowledge. That's the gist of all Hinduism. What about philosophy you read? Ultimately, is from moving from ignorance to knowledge. Now you can
yeah,
call it in many words, enlightened. You can say knowledge, but Buddha means enlightened or
yeah.
knowledge. Okay, Buddha means knowledge, and once you have knowledge, knowledge of what? Knowledge of enlightenment. And
Right.
enlightenment is not something only few people can achieve. It's like your true nature is enlightened.
Yeah,
Because you are born ignorant, so therefore you have to take that journey. So there are some people who are at a higher level of consciousness,
Yeah.
definitely, and some are at lower. So all these rituals are like entry level.
Mm.
These rituals are meant
The
for, and
gateway.
I've read most of these Vedas and Upanishads. So if you actually go into more academically, in a more scholarly fashion, and you approach Hinduism, you'll realize that rituals, the only purpose of ritual is the entry level,
Yeah.
so that it creates a discipline in you.
Mm. Yeah.
It trains your mind. It trains your mind. Okay. Now, the truly enlightened person doesn't have to sit and do jap or mantra and all those kind of things.
Right.
These ritualistic things where repetition is involved, there is a certain regiment is involved, regimental things you have to do. It's for the beginners.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you cannot reduce Hinduism to rituals, which
Right.
a lot of people do. Okay. Now, if Hinduism says that God has no shape, no form, okay, Nirakar. Okay,
Yeah.
if it is Nirakar, still we go to temples. Then people will say, okay, if you don't go to temple, you're not a Hindu, which is not right. If
Yeah.
somebody is still believing in Hindu philosophy and yet not going to temples, which means that person, it is a higher level of knowledge and higher level of consciousness.
Mm.
Okay, so it's such a wonderful, fascinating, creative belief system. I always say it's a open source faith system, whereas
Yeah.
rest of the faith systems are closed source faith systems, which
Yeah.
means you have been told by somebody that this is it. Now you cannot deviate from that. Here you can deviate it. Like both of us are sitting, I am saying anything about Hinduism, you can say anything, yet we both remain Hindus and there's no blasphemy.
Yeah,
The
that's again, that's why I love that statement because again, if you have that internal pravachan in your mind about what enlightenment and that consciousness is, then that's a pathway to friendship, that's a pathway to dialogue, that's a pathway to understand what commonalities we have. Um, and I certainly appreciate that idea that we're all on this journey towards more enlightenment and more sort of attaining that sort of Buddha in all of us. Um,
yeah,
we're almost done. So there are a few just quick rapid fire things
sure.
here. One thought that I had when I thought about chocolate was that the idea of sort of remakes. So just in rapid fire, I have a couple of quick ones here. Are you the Kaiser Soze of Bharatiya filmmakers?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm the
and then
devil. The devil. I'm the devil.
you're the devil who stayed, I guess. And in the same way, how do you find, now, how does one go about aging gracefully as an artist?
Stop coloring your hair. I
Wonderful.
still have some color on my hair, but
I'm
not on
I'm
my
just
beard.
I think I'm just letting go. That's it. Uh,
Okay, the best way to for graceful aging is, okay, that just stay with a lot of young people. That
there you
that way
go.
you age very well.
Yeah. Be curious and stay with young
Yeah.
people. How do you ever deal with regret as an artist or a filmmaker? How do you deal with that?
Now I don't, because I don't make anything which I truly don't want to make, as if my life depends on it. But
Yeah.
yes, yes, I don't regret, but I feel sometimes, oh, I wish I had done it better, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then one last, at least rapid sequence. One. What's the last film or piece of art that you watched or saw or appreciated that actually made you cry?
It's very difficult. So many things make me cry. I mean, I've almost, when I see innocence as my weakness, whenever I see innocence on screen, even a very bad movie, somebody's dialogue or acting, I can have tears in my eyes. You
Yeah.
know, but I recently, for some purpose, I watched Gandhi
Yeah.
again.
The Attenborough
Okay.
film.
Yeah, at Edinburgh film.
Yeah.
Yeah, more for referencing. I was seeing because I'm making a film, so I don't
Yeah.
want to do the same thing, exact same thing again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I Ben Kingsley's performance,
Yeah.
you know, brought so many tears in my eyes. I said, "Oh my God, this
Yeah.
guy actually tried to become Gandhi."
Mm.
And I was reading somewhere, it was such a wonderful incident that he became so much of Gandhi. It's
Mm,
easy because it concerns film stars, therefore people take it
yeah,
very lightly. But you're a doctor, you will definitely appreciate it's not easy in your mind to become someone else.
of course.
Even if I give somebody, hey, here is $1 million, become Elon
Yeah,
Musk. Okay, you cannot become that.
right.
But he actually became that,
Yeah,
and to such an extent that for people around him started wondering. See, sometimes there is exaggeration. This story may be false. I don't know. I read it,
mm,
but it's a wonderful story, even if it's false.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh, or it's half truth. It's amazing inspirational story. So they said, okay, if he doesn't get out of this character, then how will he act in rest of the films? He has films lined
Mm,
up after this. So Attenborough said, don't worry, I'll shoot the assassination scene in the end. And once I
mm,
shoot Gandhi, Ben Kingsley's Gandhi will also die.
right,
You know,
right.
okay. And when I read that story, I said I must go and revisit this film. And
Yeah,
after reading the story, I went back and saw this film just few weeks ago. And not because of Gandhi, I'm working, I know more about Gandhi than in the film.
sure.
But Ben Kingsley's honesty and
Yeah,
integrity with his work, you know,
right.
and that is when I say Indian pieces of art, the sculpture, the temples, all those things, I see the same quality in that when those sculptors
Yeah,
became the statue themselves,
mm, yeah, of course.
becoming that, when you become that, what you want to achieve, that kind of excellence, I think, is what makes human race so amazingly fascinating.
You know, this one's not a rapid fire question, but it's the one I'd really love to, end on and close our conversation. You know, as you mentioned, I mean, so many people, for those who are getting to know you for the first time or even revisiting your work, and of course soon enough are going to see some of your newer work. For those people who are appreciating or revisiting and seeing that work and experiencing it for the first time, how do you hope those people feel after watching your films or hearing you speak or getting to meet you for the first time?
Oh, there are two personalities. Okay, so first I'll say the more something which I personally are not fond of, then I'll tell you what I like. So,
Yeah,
as far as films are concerned, okay, anybody who is not into active politics,
yeah,
when they see the film, they discover the true intention of the film.
mm,
Okay, recently I was traveling and a Pakistani couple, I met them at the airport and they came to me, a Muslim couple, obviously, and
yeah,
they live in Pakistan. It's not that they don't live in Pakistan. And they came and they said, are you the same person who made that film, The Kashmir Files? For a minute, honestly, I'm telling you, for a minute, I said, he's going to abuse me or say something nasty,
yeah,
because of India's difference politically.
right.
He said, he came, held my hand, and he said, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay, in India, nobody talks about it. In Pakistan, nobody talks about it. In
Yeah,
Afghanistan, nobody talks about it. In World Forum, nobody talks about it. If nobody is going to talk about religious terrorism, then how this world is going to become peaceful?
mm, yeah,
Okay. And that the his wife told me that I've shown it to all my cousins, sisters, everybody in our family, because we are different kind of people. We are not those fundamentalists, and
mm,
we want this world to be a better. They're amazing. Another Muslim girl met me in Lucknow. She was a physiotherapist. I had gone to see a senior citizen. She was there. So then this old lady telling me that my physiotherapist wants a picture with you. I said, okay. She came and she was in this scarf. So
yeah,
I said, this doesn't look right. She came and she said, there's something we can't speak publicly, but our entire family watched your movie and it was so true.
yeah,
So people who are seeing it from human lens, they understand the true intent of the film. The true intent of the film was to
yeah,
show what happens when humanity is absent.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And in Kashmir Files, we very consciously, deliberately, we knew how sensitive the subject is. We deleted the words Hindu,
yeah,
Muslim, Pakistan, Islam. These four
mm,
words you will not find in the film, except
yeah,
for in the climax when the hero says, कि in this terrorism, Hindus died, Muslims died, Sikhs died, Dalit died, everybody died.
Right.
So
Right.
everybody is a victim of inhumanity. But politicians, what they do is they ignore this and they pick up something else. So when I meet these kind of people, that's wonderful. But I also have a different persona, which is of a public speaker. I go and I speak a lot, and I don't speak on politics when I speak. I
Yeah.
mostly speak on Hindu philosophy. I speak on higher ideas and those kind of things. And that's what I love and enjoy most.
Mm.
I really truly love that, because that energy sitting in front of young boys and girls, talking to them, and post lecture, when they come and surround me, and for 1 hour they keep telling me their ideas and all those things. And that's why I'm aging so gracefully. So because I'm always, tomorrow I'm going to Chandigarh again, to University of Chandigarh. There'll be 3, 4, 5,000 young kids. I'll
Yeah.
spend the entire day with them. That for me is real bliss, and it's intoxicating for me.
Well, I know that people are appreciating your work there. It is sparking a lot of curiosity and energy. And when you're speaking and meeting with young people in particular and energizing yourself, I hope that's something that is refreshing and nourishing and restorative. Vivekji, what a treat to talk to you for a little bit. And I hope we can revisit with you again down the road.
Oh, definitely, now, anytime, whenever you want. Whenever you want. I also want to hear your philosophical ideas. Let's do one podcast on health.
Sure. Let's make sure we revisit health and see particularly how we can age gracefully as
Let's
two guys who are in their 50s.
let's do that. Let's do that. Let's
Okay.
do that.
You're
Yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
listening to Trust Me, I Know What I'm Doing. Stay tuned.